Before we do get started with the main presentation, just a few housekeeping bits and pieces. If people wouldn't mind just staying on mute during the presentations, it just makes it a little bit easier for everybody. We will have a Q&A session at the end, and as it's a smaller group on this particular webinar, I'm quite happy for people to unmute themselves and ask the questions in person rather than having to type them into a Q&A or chat or anything like that. The other thing is just to mention that this is being recorded and will be published on our YouTube channel afterwards. So if there's anything that you might have missed, or if you've got colleagues that can attend this session today, they'll be able to watch that. So once it's uploaded, an email will go out to you to let you know how to get to it and how to watch it. But yeah, just to let you know, it is being recorded. So I think we'll get started as it's a couple of minutes past 3 o'clock. Once again, thank you for coming along and attending this webinar. This is our third webinar of 2024. We're trying to run one every single month with either a SYSPRO partner or with SYSPRO themselves to showcase different modules and different products that add value to SYSPRO. Today we are joined by Carson Fletcher from QBuild Software, who are the authors of CADLink. Carson will be taking you through the majority of this session, and we'll talk to you about what CADLink is, its purpose, its benefit. We'll also give a demonstration of how it works, specifically with SYSPRO. But before we do that, just want to run through, for those of you who might not know too much about HIT Technology. As I said, my name's Andrew Longland. I'm the Managing Director of HIT Technology. Carson, would you just mind moving on to the next slide for me?
Yes. Thank
you. As I said, I'm joined by Carson, who's the sales engineer and partner manager at QBuild. We work with QBuild to provide the CADLink software to our customers, and it's a certified global ISV partner, which means that SYSPRO has certified the product to work with SYSPRO itself. So it's working through all the validations that you would expect as a partner product. And then next slide, please, Carson. And yes, as I say, I'll go through a bit of a background of who we are. I think most of the people on here probably know us anyway, but just a little recap very quickly. HIT Technology, been around for about 15 years now. In fact, we celebrated our 15-year anniversary towards the end of last year. UK owned and operated independent company that was set up with SYSPRO support and consultancy at its absolute core. That's the entire reason for HIT Technology existing. We are now a SYSPRO premium partner, and we look after a huge number of customers with SYSPRO across the UK and Ireland. Our team's made up of 16 very experienced staff, ranging from support analysts to consultants to technical consultants to service delivery manager, project manager, etc. And everybody in the team works very much on the culture that was instilled in the business 15 years ago, which is everything we do is about consulting with our customers and working with our customers. We're not just about trying to sell the next shiny piece of kit that comes to the market. We work with our customers to look at their requirements, understand what their needs are, and then we will find a solution to fit that. Today, obviously, we are looking at a particular solution, but it's something that's quite specific and fits a particular need for many manufacturing and engineering companies, and it's just one of quite a few different what I would call value-adding solutions that we work with to add, as I say, add value to what our customers have within their SYSPRO environment. Okay, next slide, please. Just very quickly, why do our customers work with us? There's kind of 4 pillars to this, as you can see on the screen. Our expertise, which I just mentioned, our team are very experienced in what they do, and down the bottom right there, you'll see specialist experience. And when I talk about specialist experience, that's not just with SYSPRO, it's not just with software. Yes, obviously we are the experts in that, but the majority of our team have actually come from manufacturing or distribution backgrounds, so they've worked in a customer environment like yourselves, so they understand the pain points, they understand what you're trying to achieve, they understand the language you use as well, which I think is very important when you're working with a team of consultants. We offer quite a unique approach to what we do. As I said, we consult with our customers from the outset. We are very agile, we're very flexible, and what we do at the end of the day is we solve problems. We happen to use SYSPRO as one of the tools to solve a lot of those problems. But our aim is always to solve the customer's problem rather than try and squeeze something into a customer that might not be the right fit. We always look to find the right product or the right solution or the right service. And that's enough from me, because you're not here to listen to me, you're here to listen to Carson. And he's going to take you on a bit of a journey through what CADLink is, what it does, how it works, and give you a demo. And as I say, when we get to the end of that, we will have a Q&A, which I hope we can be quite interactive with. Depending on timing, we might have a bit of a chance to do some deeper dives into some more specific questions. But if we don't have time, we can arrange follow-up sessions to go through some of those individual detailed questions if we need to. So over to Carson.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrew. So we've got a few things, like Andrew was saying, that I want to go through in today's presentation, provide an introduction to CADLink, go over some of the current pains and band-aid solutions you might be applying to those pains if you're in need of a solution like CADLink, talk through some of the features and the benefits, and then we're going to go into a demo of CADLink. So I've got a demo of CADLink that I'm going to walk you through, and you can take a look at the interface and what it might look like to use CADLink. So I suppose before we go into like a broad overview of CADLink, Andrew introduced me, but my name's Carson. I am the partner manager for all things SYSPRO here at QBuild Software. And our main software, we have a few others, but our main software is CADLink. So CADLink is a direct point-to-point integration between a CAD, a PDM, or a PLM system, and integrating those systems to SYSPRO. So it's really engineering software integration to SYSPRO. It has a real-time BOM comparison. So CADLink is comparing the list of items or bills of materials between what's in our engineering system and what's in SYSPRO. So it's not just a blind push or manual enter data. It's really a comparison, and it gives us that overview of the data. You'll see that in the demo. But importantly, it's a one-click BOM sync. So inside of the CADLink interface, we don't need to run CADLink once for items or another time for BOMs. It's all happening in our one click. CADLink's taking care of all that logic for us. So CADLink was developed in 2002. We are currently a SYSPRO certified global ISV partner. Really proud of that partnership with SYSPRO. It allows us to really be part of the SYSPRO family and really get the approval from the SYSPRO corporate there. And we are I'm headquartered here in Toronto, along with the rest of the company. But we have offices in Munich and in Japan now, actually. So we're really spanning the globe, which allows us to support the global ISV partner, the global part of that partnership. Today, we started in 2002, one integration to one ERP, and now we've got integrations to over 35 different CAD and engineering systems. So you'll see a few logos on the screen. You might recognize something you use there. If you don't see what you use on that list, it's likely that we have done the integration or at least looked into it in the past, because we really have looked at everything under the sun in terms of CAD integration to ERP here. So let's talk a little bit about the symptoms. So if you don't have CADLink and you think you might need a system like it, here's some problems you might be encountering. And if you recognize any of these, then CADLink is probably a good fit to help you out. So the first one might be something like an engineering bottleneck, or we need to hire more engineers. Maybe engineers are spending too much time in BOM data entry into CISPRO. They've got a new bill of material that they've just designed in CAD. They've got that all maybe approved for the PLM or the PDM system. But when it comes time to enter that into CISPRO, they've got to maybe manually enter that data or export it into Excel and then play around with the Excel fields and copy and paste. And maybe they lose some data in that and they need to go back over. So that engineering bottleneck or that time it takes to get data into CISPRO might be an issue currently. Maybe you don't fully use the structures in CISPRO to their full benefit. Maybe you're creating partial structures or maybe just the top level and not bothering with all the different sub-assemblies in the model because it takes too long to get all that information in. You say, well, the top level is good enough and we'll figure it out after that. If that sounds familiar, you'll definitely want to look at CADLink. CADLink will get that full structure into CISPRO so that you've got all of the information inside CISPRO so you can fully take advantage of the CISPRO system. If you have projects or jobs that are delayed, kind of leaning into the first one here a little bit, but if there's a delay in getting information into CISPRO, we've got everything in engineering done, and now we need to get it into CISPRO, and that job is being delayed because of the data entry problems. That's another reason to look at CADLink. Lastly, and maybe most obviously, any BOM data errors. So if you're looking at your structure in CISPRO and you notice, hey, this is quantity 2, but it should really be 1. If you've ever ordered something incorrectly because of a wrong bill of material in CISPRO, if the description of the stock code is incorrect, if it's got the wrong maybe unit of measure or something like that in CISPRO, then you'll want to look at a direct integration to your CAD system to make sure that you're not having any of those kind of manual data entry errors. Direct integration being the key to avoid that kind of issue. So if you have any of those symptoms currently, you might be applying a couple of band-aids. The ones that we see the most are these two, kind of a brute force, some manual data entry. I'm just pushing information into CISPRO, furiously typing on my keyboard to get it in as fast as possible. Likely some errors along the way, or you might be doing more of a blind push. I've got an Excel file and I just cross my fingers and push it into CISPRO and hope nothing bad happens off the back of it. So brute force, obviously there's zero software cost there, but it's time consuming, right? You're going to spend a lot of time entering data. I've talked to people that hire someone just to do data entry and they spend 8 hours a day doing data entry. That's time consuming, but also costly. You're paying someone a full salary to do that when you could be using a system like CADLink. This might be okay for infrequent or small changes, but if you're doing anything more than a small change here and there, you do want to look at a more more standard solution like something like CADLink. Next would be blind push. It's faster than brute force. But like I was saying, you're going to have to massage that Excel. You're going to have to play around with the columns, the column names, these kind of things to get things just right. And there's no way to know whether or not that data is going to save successfully into CISPRO unless you manually look it over every single field and make sure that there's no issues there. Again, it's often reliant on a single person in IT. Or maybe a handful of people, but they're still going to be spending a good chunk of their day doing that data integration. Another thing with the blind push is that it's not bidirectional, right? I can't pull information down from CISPRO to data engineering. If I notice a change, and if I'm going to make a change to CISPRO, and I would rather not change some data in CISPRO for a certain item, I can't on the fly make those kind of decisions. It has to be developed up front. You've got to build that Excel sheet with that in mind from the get-go. You're less flexible there. So rather than doing something like that manual push or the blind push into CISPRO, we should be looking at CAD integration. We should be looking at linking engineering directly with CISPRO. CADLink has a bidirectional data exchange. meaning that when we update CISPRO, we can also pull down information from CISPRO to update our CAD models. If we want to change something in CISPRO, but pull down some data and update the CAD to have them truly sync with each other, we can do that with CADLink. And we can't do that easily with the other two options. And we're really, syncing those two sets of data. We're making sure that everyone in CISPRO is using the same information that was just developed in engineering. If you're a company that employs a lot of CAD designers, that CAD data really is at the heart of what you guys are doing, and making sure that that is synced up with CISPRO is really important. We're eliminating those data silos, right? We're not having two sets of data that are supposed to be the same, but may have slightly differences here. We really are bringing those two systems and groups of people together and having them use the same set of data. So a typical CADLink customer is going to be someone obviously in discrete manufacturing who's using a CAD system. They might be doing some custom or engineer to order products, or they might just have really large assemblies, making big machinery, large bills of materials. And even if they do a change, maybe not that often, but every time they do a change, they use CADLink to make that change, because of that comparison that CADLink's going to do, is going to make sure that we're only making the changes that we need to, and that we're fully synchronizing that BOM. If we look back at some of those symptoms that you might be recognizing, if you are only creating half of the structure or the first level of the structure, if you've got a large machine that you're building, a large bill of material, then if you're trying to manually enter that huge bill of material, it's quite the daunting task to get that information into CISPRO for the full bill of material. But if you've got CADLink, CADLink's going to take care of all that for you, so you can really get that full BOM into CISPRO. Some common industries, and this is just a select few, not an exhaustive list by any means, but folks in medical equipment, aerospace, or robotics or automation, some complex bills of materials, or some complex and stringent reasons or restrictions on the bill of material in CISPRO. So if I want to, if I'm in a medical equipment, that BOM has to be solid. There can't be any issues with that bill of material, and linking that to CAD is a big deal for those kind of folks. But also folks like also companies in tractor trailer or automotive. If they're doing any kind of custom builds for tractor trailer or different cars, or attachments to different cars, then they're going to need CADLink, because they're going to be making changes all the time. So it's really folks that have large bills of materials, or folks that are making changes all the time. They're going to get the most value out of something like CADLink. So with CADLink, obviously, we're going to be reducing engineering cost, right? Rather than having engineers spend all day or hiring an entirely new person to do data entry, we're going to reduce engineering costs by reducing that amount of time spent on data entry. A lot of the times engineers have already entered information into their CAD model, so let's not make them enter it again into CISPRO. Let's read it direct out of our CAD system and get that into CISPRO with one click of the button. Also, we're going to improve the accuracy, right? Less errors means less inaccurate data in CISPRO, so you're going to be reducing the scrap or any of those kind of wrong build situations where you've got a bill of material in CISPRO that calls out one thing, but in reality, it's incorrect because of some kind of manual data or import problem with the data. If we're importing directly from engineering, we're going to get exactly what we need in that BOM, nothing more, nothing less. And then we're going to speed up the process, right? So manual data entry is a slow process. It's going to take a long time to get that information in. If we're doing a kind of export, import, it's going to take a long time too. CADLink is a direct integration. So we're pulling information out, comparing it against CISPRO, and then pushing that into CISPRO with that right back to CAD. So the whole process is going to take a lot less time, which will speed up that project throughput, and get the whole process done quicker and more accurately. And that's really the bottom line here. CADLink enables us to get information into CISPRO faster and more accurately. Okay, so the CADLink advantage, why go with CADLink? So we're fully compatible with structures and stock codes in CISPRO, but not only that, we can also integrate directly to estimates and non-stock codes. We're compatible with the CISPRO ECC. So if you use the engineering change control functionality in CISPRO, we're compatible with that as well. Over the course of your project, you'll have direct contact with a developer and project manager resource on our team. So that's something that really sets us apart is our team dedicated to customer success. We've got a full project management team, and we have the resources to support you in your project of CAD integration and get you guys live with CAD. So that's a big part of what we do here. Furthermore, we're recognized as really the gold standard in the manufacturing ERP industry for CAD integration. So if there's a specific scenario you think that you have that no one else has seen before, likely we've run into a problem similar to that, and we can use our expertise and our experience doing this kind of integration over the course of that project. If someone on the team, if the person you're directly working with on the team hasn't seen that problem before, there's someone at the company that has, and the way that we work is pretty collaborative. So there's someone on the team that can be able to solve that problem. We're also willing to tailor solutions to solve your specific problem. We kind of along the lines of what Andrew was saying, we're really problem solvers here. We see a CAD, an engineering situation and a ERP situation, and we say, okay, what's the best way to solve this problem? That might be with the standard CADLink, but that could also be with a custom solution or a customization to CADLink to fit exactly your specific problem. And we don't shy away from that. So if we want to solve a very specific problem, if we need to tailor a solution to get to that solution, to get to that, the final answer for your specific problem, we've got the resources, we've got the team here that's willing and capable to solve that problem that way. Okay, let's take a look now at the CADLink demo. So I'm going to do a overview presentation here. So I'm not going to go too far into the weeds. I want to do an overview of the CADLink demo, show you guys the interface, how we would launch CADLink from a sample CAD model I've got here. If we want to dive deeper, if there's additional questions or you want to see a custom demo perhaps with some of your models, reach out to Andrew after the session and we can set that up with you guys. So I'm going to swap out of my presentation here to my Enter. Hopefully that went well. You guys can see all that. So I'm going to run the CADLink demo here from Inventor. It's a 3D CAD model from the folks at Autodesk. And while I'm going to show Inventor today, CADLink for different CAD systems, whether it's SolidWorks, CATIA, Solid Edge, NX, or any of the PDM systems. So whether it's Autodesk Vault, or Team Center, or SolidWorks PDM, whatever it might be, the general way that we run CADLink and what the CADLink interface looks like is going to be identical. So what you're going to see here should be applicable to your scenario. Obviously, where we run CADLink from is going to be a little bit different. So for the purpose of today's demo, think of me as an engineer. Right? I am in Inventor here, and we've just made some changes to this model. So maybe I have removed some components, maybe I've added a few more. And now we need to make these changes in CISPRO. Right? I need to go to CISPRO. If I didn't have CADLink, I might need to go to CISPRO, open up a stock code, create a bunch of new stock codes, go to the structure, create a new structure, all very manual, navigating in throughout different windows, right? I'm sure you're familiar. But because I have CADLink, I'm going to leverage CADLink to do all that for me. So CADLink is an add-in to our CAD system. It lives in the ribbon here at the top. So in Inventor, that's up here. And here I've got a couple of options for running CADLink. I can run CADLink against the structure or against the estimate BOM in CISPRO. CADLink itself looks essentially identical between the two. So I'm going to be showing the structure BOM, the estimate BOM, everything here will apply to that. When I select structure BOM, what CADLink's going to do is run through the Inventor bill of material and look for matches to CISPRO. So it's going to look for any existing stock codes, any existing structures, It's done that already, and it's shown us the results of that comparison in this window here. So it's used that part number that I have in my inventor model to look for a match in SYSPRO, and the results of the comparison that it's run now are in this window. So each of the different colors on the screen here mean something different with regards to the comparison that CADLink did. So if we take a look at some of the examples here, 1.1, this 282A part, CADLink found this part number in the inventor model, looked through SYSPRO, tried to find a matching stock code. In this case, it did find a matching stock code, and then it compares things like description, quantity on this bill of material, perhaps a unit of measure, maybe part category, and any other fields that we want to map. It compares those fields between what it finds in Inventor and what it finds in SYSPRO. In this case, this row here is entirely in white. There's no other highlighting here, meaning that this part is already synchronized between what we have in our engineering system, what is in SYSPRO. So there's no difference there, so there's no highlight. Now, if CADLink did find a difference, it would highlight that difference to us in yellow. So if we look at this part just below, CADLink, again, looked at this part number, found this part number in Inventor, found a matching part stock code in SYSPRO, and ran a comparison. Ran comparisons for description, quantity, all the same fields here. But this time it found a difference in description. So it's highlighted the description in yellow for us. Now, because I have CADLink, I can right-click on that value, and I can see what the two values are. I can see what's in my CAD, and I can see what's in my SYSPRO. And here I can make a decision if I want to. I can select my CAD description, which is what I have CADLink defaulted to do when I load in. When I have the CAD description selected, when I hit save now in CADLink, which is this button in the top left, CADLink will update this existing stock code in SYSPRO with this new description that's coming from Inventor. So we can update stock codes, we can update structures with new information from SYSPRO, and I have control over that inside of this interface. So if there was a specific scenario where I didn't want to take my CAD description, I could make a change here. I can manually edit this field if I wanted to, or I could select my ERP description. When I do that, the ERP value here will be displayed. And when I save now in CADLink, CADLink will leave this stock code alone in SYSPRO. It won't update that description. It'll leave that description as is. But it will be able to write this description back to Inventor. So CADLink is bidirectional. We can update Inventor with information coming from SYSPRO. So not only am I updating SYSPRO to match, if I want to make a selection to say, hey, actually, I want to use this value instead, CADLink will synchronize both systems to use that same information. So after we've synced in CADLink, everything in the model and everything in SYSPRO will agree. So if you think about running CADLink again, everything here will be white. There'll be no yellow highlighting or anything like that. CADLink will fully synced up everything. So those are existing parts in the white with differences in the yellow. I'm going to go back to my CAD description just for our demo here. You can make those changes in this interface, right? It's not a blind push. I'm not, hitting a button and hoping and praying that nothing goes wrong in the update, or taking everything 100% from the CAD system. We have this interface here so that we can make those changes. We can overview the changes we're going to make to SYSPRO so that we're not blindly updating something that we might not want to in SYSPRO. Next, I want to look at all the parts in green. Now, that is a majority of this bill material. And all the parts in green are parts that don't exist in SYSPRO right now. So there's no stock code record for any of these parts, these part numbers that we read from Inventor. So CADLink, for example here, CADLink looked at this part number in Inventor, looked for a match in SYSPRO, but didn't find the match. So there's no stock code in my SYSPRO here that matches this part number. So CADLink highlights the row for me in green, show me that this is a brand new part, and that when I hit save in CADLink, CADLink will create this stock code for me, and it'll create it with all of the information that is in CADLink here that we read from Inventor. So it's going to create it with that part number from CAD. It's going to create it with description. It's going to add it to this bill of material, and it'll set things like the unit of measure, the part category, the product class, these kind of fields. So read that from Inventor, or we could set that inside of the CADLink interface here. So with CADLink, I don't need to run once for an update to parts. I don't need to look for a specific Excel format for new parts or for updating a BOM versus creating a new BOM. It's all done in the one interface. CADLink's taking care of all of that logic for us. So I run CADLink on a Inventor model. It tells me what parts are new, which parts are going to be updated. I look at it once over here in the CADLink interface and hit save. It does that update for me. So all of these parts in green will be created. So I don't need to go into SYSPRO to set those up initially. CADLink will do all that for me. So we've got a lot of parts in green here, but we've also got sub-assemblies in green. The whole bill of material could be green if it's something that's entirely brand new. CADLink will set all that up for me. So it'll create the stock codes, create the structure, and create that relationship between the two in SYSPRO. There's a couple more colors on the screen that I want to walk through in today's demo. At the bottom, we've got this part in gray. Now, the gray line item is a part that is in the current SYSPRO bill of material, but it is not in the CAD BOM. So this wasn't in my Inventor model. This is something that is on the existing BOM in SYSPRO. CADLink sees that discrepancy there and highlights this row to me in gray to let me know that CADLink will remove this part from the bill of material in SYSPRO. So not only are we updating a bill of material just to add parts to it, we really are synchronizing it and making it match what is in my CAD system. So we can add parts to the BOM, but we can also remove parts from the BOM. So we will never delete this stock code, obviously, but we will take it off of the structure so that it matches the latest revision coming out of engineering. Now, this part in gray, this is the part that we want to remove. Right? This is maybe something that's been made obsolete in the latest revision. Maybe we've replaced it with a new part. But you might be able to think of examples of parts that we have in our SYSPRO bill of material that we don't model in CAD, and we never will model them in CAD, but we still need in the SYSPRO BOM. Right? There are parts that we have in SYSPRO, but not in our CAD system. Examples of parts that we see that fit that description are things like nuts or bolts, maybe rivets, other consumables like paint or glue, or things like packaging or instruction manuals. These kind of parts that need to be on that BOM, they need to be in that structure in SYSPRO, but we're never going to model any of that. We can add those kind of parts in the CADLink interface. We add those with functionality that we call manual parts. So if I click here on the side, it'll prompt me to add a manual part. And when I do that, CADLink will add a new row at the bottom in blue, where I can then search through my SYSPRO stock code list for a stock code to add. So if I look for something like a nut to add, it'll pull up everything with nut in the description, and then I can add a new part to the bottom. CADLink will pull all of the values out of SYSPRO for the stock code, and then I can change the quantity. So not only are we synchronizing the engineering BOM, we're getting all of that engineering information from our CAD design into SYSPRO, but we're also able to add additional pieces to this bill of material. And when I do this add, when I add this manual part, CADLink will flag this in SYSPRO so that the next time we run CADLink, it recognizes it as this manual part and won't try and remove it. So we can go that extra level deeper, right? We can synchronize the engineering bill of material and add some of these additional manufacturing items to this BOM. We can flesh out this bill of material a bit more than if we were just doing a raw input of the data, right? We've got this interface to make sure we can enter as much data into SYSPRO as we can inside of this interface here. So we can add pieces of, we can add pieces to this bill of material, like the nuts or bolts or glue or things like that. But we can also add things like raw materials. So if I scroll to the right, we've got 4 fields that all start with MTL. And this is where CADLink can add a raw material piece. So if I want to make one of these parts out of a piece of raw material, sheet of steel or whatever it might be, in my CAD system, this is just a part, right? But that part might call out raw material that it needs to use or that it will need to be made out of. In CADLink, I can add that raw material. I can go that extra level deeper in this interface here. So I can, in much the same way, search through my stock code list here, look for a sheet of steel to add to the BOM. And when I do that, CADLink will pull out that description, the measure that it'll need to use, and I can change the quantity there. So now we're adding, another level to this bill of material, right? I'm going from a part in my CAD system to another sub-assembly in SYSPRO, and we can add that information inside CADLink here. So you saw me add it manually there in the interface, but if we want to read a CAD property that contains this information to set all this up, we can do that as well. CADLink is very configurable in terms of the field mappings that we have set up, in terms of the data that we can pull out. In our settings, we can map to any field in SYSPRO that's on the stock code or the structure or part of that operation in the structure. So we can really configure the data that we're pulling and sending to SYSPRO as part of what CADLink's doing here. One last color, and it's a pretty important one that I want to walk through, is the red highlight. So the red highlight is how CADLink is flagging any issues with data validation. So at the same time that we are updating SYSPRO, creating new items, CADLink is checking that the data that we get from Inventor and making sure that that data is going to match any of SYSPRO's rules. So in this case, CADLink sees this part number here. This is a new stock code that it'll need to create. It's taken a look at the description that was mapped and notice that there is no value in my Inventor file here. So CADLink highlights that empty description in red because in my SYSPRO, I can't create the stock code without a description. So CADLink knows that rule and will flag that for us before we even try to send this to SYSPRO. So if I was doing just a blind push, pull the information out of Inventor and push it into SYSPRO, that's going to error out on me here. But because I have CADLink, it's smart enough to catch that and let me know that that needs to be addressed before we update SYSPRO. So if I have a red highlight here, my save button will actually be disabled. You might have noticed that here. This is all grayed out, and these other buttons, so if I highlight over them, see a highlight there. Because I have a data validation issue, I can't update or rather create this stock code. CADLink knows that and won't let me even try. So with this red highlight, if I wanted to get more information on why the red highlight was there, maybe I'm not sure, I can go to my message tab in the top right, and it'll give me more information on this description or on this arrow here. If I click on that, it'll highlight the row for me. So CADLink catches this error, sees that there's an empty description, but because I have CADLink, I can actually click into this description and enter a new value. So if I enter in a new description here, when I do that, the red highlight goes away, my message goes away, and my save button is re-enabled. It's looking at this data that it's checking for those rules live here in the interface. But now when I save in CADLink, not only will I create this part in SYSPRO, create that stock code, and give it the description that I've entered in CADLink here, Because we're bidirectional, CADLink will also go back to Inventor and fill in that empty property. So it will address the problem in Inventor and create the stock code in SYSPRO all in the same interface here. Further into the data validation piece, we can check for fields like description if they're too empty or maybe too long. If I'm looking at something like a part category or product class or a warehouse or something like that, where these are all drop-down fields in SYSPRO, they're also drop-down fields in CADLink. And this drop-down list is the same list that I would see in my SYSPRO, pulling these drop-down lists dynamically every time we run CADLink. So if I make a change, then that change in the allowable values here will be shown in the CADLink interface. It's part of what we're doing with data validation, right? If I create a new part and give it a product class that's not allowed, then I'm going to run into issues there. So CADLink checks that all of the product classes, the warehouses, these kind of fields are matching SYSPRO's rules for what those fields need to be. Okay, so we've talked about all of the information on the interface here, the fields across the top. I'll mention again that these fields here are just what I've got in the demo. If we want to map additional fields, or if we want to add logic to the way that we might default these fields, combine information from the CAD system to set one of these fields up, we can do all of that in the CADLink settings. So you won't need to come back to QBuild and my team to do additional development work if we just want to map an additional stock code field, for instance. You can add all of that and play with the mappings inside of the CADLink settings. You've got that functionality and that flexibility inside CADLink. Lastly, there is one other part to the structures in SYSPRO that we might create. We've got our stock codes, we've got the bill of material with the items in there, but we can also add operations. So if we want to add operations to a structure as part of our larger bill of material upload, we can do that. So if I click on an assembly here, I can add operations one by one, and I can select the work center from a drop-down list. Again, the same drop-down list you would see in SYSPRO. And again, here we've got a very basic list of fields here. But if I want to add runtime to that list, setup time, any of those operation fields, that can all be done in the mappings. So again, CADLink is flexible in terms of what details, what fields we want to map between the two. But in adding these operations here, we can more fully flesh out that bill of material. If we've got operation information in our CAD model, we could also map that here, pull those operations in automatically, and then get them inside of CADLink as we wish. But we've got that flexibility, we've got that functionality in CADLink to fully set up that BOM in SYSPRO. Okay, so that was the demonstration that I wanted to walk through as part of CADLink here. I've given a pretty good overview of all the different comparisons that CADLink is doing, the data validation that CADLink is doing, manual parts, raw materials, where we can add information to this BOM, operation info we can edit. So that's an overview. Like I said, if we want to take a deeper dive into what CADLink might look like with your data, you want to send me, talk to Andrew, send the specific CAD model that you would want to see as part of a demo. We can set something like that up and see it's something that's a bit more tailored to what you guys are doing. So we've got a few more slides that I want to walk through, so I'm going to switch back to my presentation here. Right. There we go. So I want to talk a little bit and highlight some testimonials. On our website, we have a page dedicated to success stories. So testimonials, snippets from some of our customers and some words from them on what it's like to work with QBuild and use CADLink. I wanted to highlight this one here. This is from Aussteel, maybe obviously from Australia, but they added some words on their experience with working with QBuild, just highlighting things like, our ability to work across different time zones and working with the QBuild team And that's something that we want to highlight as part of our project. We're a software development company, but we're also an implementation team. And we want to make sure that we're solving your problems and working with you to find the best solution to fit your needs. So our customer success team and project management team is a big part of what we're doing here. And you can see Osteel's testimonial and others on our website at the link below there. Okay, so if you liked what you saw in today's webinar, schedule a discovery call, schedule a follow-up demo through Andrew and team there. We have flexible licensing options, so all the CADLink pricing is available through HIT Technologies and SYSPRO. And if you like what you see in the webinar, like I was saying, talk to Andrew. We can set something up and find a solution that works for you. Okay, now it's time for questions. I think we're almost at the end of our session here, but we should have a couple of minutes for any questions that you guys have.
That's great. Thanks, Carson. I think that was really, really useful, not only just to see the product in action, but to hear about some of the problems that you solve with CADLink and the benefits it brings. And as you say, now's the time for questions. As we are a small group, if anybody has any questions, feel free to take yourself off of mute and ask away. Not a problem at all.
Hi, Carson. How long does it take to implement this CADLink software?
Yep. Typical project will range from 6 to 8 weeks. It's from kickoff with our team to going live with CADLink, swapping to the production environment and using CADLink to update bombs. Over the course of that project, we'll have a version of CADLink in your hands to test within 2 to 3 weeks from the kickoff. But we'll walk you through everything from A to Z in that project. So we'll walk through the kickoff, we'll go through all the steps again, but we will help you through installation, initial configuration, training, and then any consulting or feedback that you guys have over the course of the project. We'll be there with you the whole time.
Okay, and is there an initial implementation cost? Yeah,
so Andrew can send you all those details, but there is a licensing piece and then an implementation piece to the CADLink project.
Okay, amazing. Thank you.
Quick question from my point of view, same company as Lucy. Is there any prerequisites required set up in SYSPRO to interact with SolidWorks? For example, there's a field in SYSPRO which suggests revision control. If you're not using that and you have revision control enabled in PDM and SolidWorks, are you going to end up with a crash?
Nope. That's part of what we'll work on with you guys for configuration, but we have a lot of different customers in the SYSPRO space that aren't using ECC, but are using the PDM revision control or PLM revision control. And what CADLink will do there is make sure that the latest information from PLM, that the next revision is what is going to be in SYSPRO. So we don't necessarily need to use ECC for that kind of thing. As far as any other configuration that needs to happen, there really isn't much. The CADLink installation itself is pretty straightforward. We're using the built-in APIs from the CAD or the PDM or the PLM side that you should have already. And then the SYSPRO e.net is where we're doing the integration from. CADLink comes with its own license for all that, so there's no additional purchase on the SYSPRO side that needs to happen. And you should already be set up for CADLink to do the integration on the SYSPRO side.
Okay, last question on the front of being an engineer and being cynical, because naturally we are. You smile, well done. Is what reasons should I not do it? Because there's always a good reason to sell something for. Tell me why I shouldn't do it.
That's a great question, Drew. Love it.
Yeah. Why you shouldn't do it? I would say if you don't make that many changes, then the ROI might not make sense. There is a license cost to CADLink, so If you're not making too many changes or very small changes, then it might not make sense. But if you're doing anything substantial in terms of changing bills of materials, and that bill of material is being driven by a CAD design, then you really should look. There is an amount of changes where it might not make sense.
Okay, I'm aware that between our CYSPRO, which I think Sarah calls our single source of truth, and our CAD, there's a major gap. And the CAD was ruled outside PDM, and we have some data outside PDM, data inside PDM, and we're actually doing a catch-up. So we've got a half-done scenario, and that's why I meant, is there a reason why I shouldn't? Or shouldn't yet? And the feeling I'm getting based on what I've heard and what I've seen is, if SYSPRO is good, but the CAD isn't, I need to get my CAD in line or within shouting distance to do my compare. Otherwise, there'll be so much work to be done I'll be creating a bigger job of work. So I just need to make sure they're in alignment, certainly on the fundamentals. I'm just aware, because we don't have a revision control in place, and then when I can't make that truthful comparison, that single source of truth I can't be sure of yet. That's probably that's why I asked the question, is there a reason why I shouldn't do it? And at the moment, it feels as if I shouldn't do it yet, because I've got some shoveling to do.
That might be the answer. But I think what might be helpful is if you and me meet after this webinar and we can dive into some of those details. Ultimately, the answer might be, well, we've got some, like you're saying, some shoveling to do. So there might be some setup on the CAD side, some setup need to be done there. But I think generally the CAD integration, the CADLink integration is pretty straightforward. So, I've
used it with Epicor before, so I know it's possible to do. Right. So it's just making sure that you've got not necessarily pure data, but as pure as you're able to make it. And that's the thing that I found that throws rocks in the road. Not for the, it's great for engineering to have what they want and accounts to have what they want, but the bill of materials to buy is our Bible, and then they have to be in alignment. I can't afford 20, 30 years of data to be upset, so I need to be sure of how we do it. Implementation is probably longer than the 6 to 8 weeks, so I suggest, if you're unsure of that, it's what it takes to make us feel comfortable.
Yeah. So I think definitely, if you wanted to look further at CADLink, we should get on a call and talk through, what your PDM looks like now, what SYSPRO looks like, and where those gaps are, and if CADLink can help fill them.
Yeah, I think maybe a call in maybe a month or two, see where we are in a month or two when things settle down.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Let's set that up.
Thank you for your time. Cheers.
Sorry, Carson, from my end. Just in terms of the operations, I'll take it you can go a lot deeper than what you've shown us there in terms of actually going into like narrations, putting up startup times, teardown times, so forth.
Yep. Yeah, any of those operation fields that you see in the structures and routings screen in SYSPRO can be mapped through CADLink. Like I say, I had a very basic list in my interface there, but you can really map any of those fields.
Perfect. And then also to the stock images, I take it those can also be translated into SYSPRO as well?
Yep. Yeah, that's something we've looked at before. It's not part of the standard CADLink, but we can definitely talk about ways that we can get that to work. Things we've looked at before is like adding links to the multimedia in SYSPRO, but happy to chat with you about exact ways we want to get that in, but definitely possible.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Some excellent questions there. Are there any others before we wrap up? No, I think we might be done. So yeah, thank you for attending, everybody, and big thank you to Carson for taking us through that. I hope everybody's found it really useful. I know I did. As we said before, if you'd like to follow up on this, get any more information, do a deeper dive into anything that you've seen, please get in contact with myself or any of the team at Hit Technology, and we'd be glad to set something up, get Carson involved in that, and take you into more detail. And yeah, one of the things that we can do is take samples of your existing CAD files and run them through a demo to show you what that would look like from a CADLink perspective, bit of a proof of concept if you like, and talk through some of the finer details. So yeah, please do reach out. I think everybody has our details anywhere. Do we have a slide with our contact details on there, Carson? I think we do, don't we?
Yes,
yeah,
we do.
We go.
There we go.
So as I said, reach out to either of us. Obviously in the UK, as one of the SYSPRO partners, we're a sort of point of contact from that perspective. So you've got my details there, but you've also got Carson's email address as well, if you have anything you need to contact him for. But I think that brings us nicely to a close with a few minutes to spare. We plan these webinars to be an hour, and Carson's done a fantastic job of keeping us on time. Well done. So yeah, as I say, thank you for joining us. This recording will be uploaded to YouTube as quickly as the technology allows us, and links will be sent out so that if you have colleagues that haven't been able to join us today, they can watch back, or if there's something that you think, oh, I wanted to have another look at that, you can replay it and have a look. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your days.
Thanks, everyone.